Hi, it's Erica and welcome to another demo, and today I will be showing you some of the makes that I have used using the Die Cutting Essentials magazine. This is issue number 14 and it includes autumn leaves with an embossing folder as well. It's a really lovely set, and although it's autumn leaves, I can show you I've used them for other things as well. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this card here with its really autumnal leaves in a little display with the falling leaves in the background. Just to show you, I've also done this in a black and white with the words "just to say" that is in the set. It's quite a sort of male masculine card, this one. And then just to show you, I've got the embossing folder going upwards and I think it looks more spring-like. Done that in watercolour, and I've used the flowers, a new set of stamps from PaperArtsy. It's a Joffy Mini, and you can see I've just made that look very spring-like, so from the same set it can look very, very different. But just to show you once again, today we're going to do the autumnal card. So for speed, I have already die cut the pieces out. I shall leave this one to the side for reference. So I've got my A4 sheet of craft card folded so that will fit an ordinary C5 envelope. Then I've got layers of dark coloured cards for my background, and then I've die cut a variety of leaves in different colours. Now, for ease, you can die cut them from a coloured card. As you can see, the yellow and the sort of burnt umber colour, or even craft card itself. If you don't have any of these, you can die cut ordinary white or cream card, and I'll be showing you how you can transform those into the base layer. It's just that it's just easier to have, if you've already got some coloured card, going with that, because your work's half done. So we'll get started. I think you can see you've got the different leaves here. You've got an acorn and you've got the words "just to say." This card comes from a pack called Autumn Colour, and it's by Joy Crafts. There's just a variety of lovely sort of deep autumnal shades. Also be great for men's cards. But what I wanted to show you that is, it has a white core, it's printed. You can usually see that by the white edge, but if you're in any doubt, if you tear it, you can see it's got a white core. This is what we need because we're going to do some sanding on the embossing to reveal the white. If it's a solid coloured card, it doesn't matter how often you sand, you're not going to get that show up. So if in doubt with any card, if you just tear it, you'll be able to see what the colour is inside. So I'm just going to take a sanding block. It was a bit mucky, this one, but it still does the job. And I'm going to sand. You can see I'm sanding that all back. Now we're going to speed this up so you don't have to stand and sit and watch me for hours. So there we have it. That's our sanded card, and as you can see, they really do stand out now. but I don't necessarily want the white. I prefer a more autumnal yellow showing on that. So this is what I do next. I just take a piece of non-stick sheet, and then I've got my distress inks, and then I'm going to go for fossilized amber, which is a deep yellow. I keep my sponges underneath there so they're always ready to go, just saves you having to clean them every time. And get some ink onto the sponge. This is why I've got the non-stick sheet, because as you can see there's a little bit too much ink on there. So I'll come and pick that up later, but you don't want to overkill. But you can see there you've picked up a lovely colour, and now it's really starting to blend well. So there's our background. Really transformed that now. A little bit in there. Okay, so that's really the base layer of our card. So now we want to sort our leaves out, and as I've got that yellow amber out anyway, I'm going to show you on a variety of colours about transforming them. Now obviously, to get to that stage with them already being yellow, we could just colour our plain card. See, it didn't take long and we're almost at that same level anyway. And then I'm using colours of autumn. So we've got here a spice marmalade in orange, Mo Lorna green, and maybe a little bit of abandoned coral, which is just give it a reddy tone. Obviously this yellow is not really going to show up on any of the other. Oh, it does look quite nice on that one though. There we go, that's giving that a more yellow tone. But on these they're not going to show up, so we need to go in with the darker shades. So we'll start with the orange, Spice Marmalade, and we'll just add. Now I would say have a look at autumn leaves. They're quite patchy. There's bits of yellow, bits of brown, some still bits of green within the piece, within the leaf I should say. So you can just really just mess about. I will be using a brown later, and my favourite is Vintage Photo. So we've got a bit of orange going on. I suppose I should really use some of the other colours. Let's add that onto that. Get some different leaves, otherwise they're all going to look a bit samey. And I also want some of those acorns, if you can see those there. Got the little acorns there. There we are. And with the acorns I'm just going to put a little touch of colour on them. Obviously this one needs to be quite dark. But you can see just with the ink and the blender tool is brilliant. You can change them quite quickly, so it's not like a massive job to start with a cream and work down. I'm going to put a little bit of green on because some of them just sometimes have that little shade of green still as they've just fallen. There we go. So Won't show so much on the yellow, but it will give it a nice shade. Oops, throwing them about. There we go. And on this, it's harder to change when it's dark, it's harder to change it more than what it is. The only way I can change that probably is getting some brown on it. Put some green on the acorns. I often see them with a bit of green on them. And again, it looks like they're in stages of changing. And they're looking pretty good. I think I might have gone too green on that one, so I'll go over that afterwards. Just try a little bit of coral, see if that makes any difference. Again, this will be trial and error, seeing how much. Oh yeah, look at that, that's perfect autumn leaf, isn't it? Don't need too much of that, but a little hit of that really does make it look autumnal. I mean, really it's just a case of having a play around, see what works. But that's almost like a pinky shade when it's put on those. So there we go. So we're getting there. Like I said, that one I think I've done a bit too green. So we'll go back in with our yellow. There should be enough on there. Oops. Just to take it down a bit. There we go. Perfect. And you can see it's just taking that shade down. So we're getting there. Final touch, vintage photo. Just, this pad's a bit old, so hopefully there's still some colour in it. And just a little in places. You can see it's quite patchy how I'm doing this, and if you think about autumn leaves, they're not all one colour. That's the point, they're all kinds of colours. Works quite well on the craft card because it's kind of already brown, and that really does look like it's been there a while. But you're getting a full array of autumn colours with these. This one, because it is the dark colour, I'm hoping that the vintage photo will adjust it a little bit. Yeah, you can just see on the tips it is changing it a little bit. I mean, I could have sanded it down and got the white core and then gone in with the colour if I so wished. But it's these little touches, especially with die cutting, those little touches are what makes the card from just an ordinary card to something a little bit special. So I'll put those to one side for a moment. It's quite important to wipe the surface down because even though you can't see any colour on that sheet, there always is. And if you're using a light coloured card, when you go to put it down, you end up with the back of the card covered. And I've still got ink. I think that's enough. So what I want to do is just, because that's quite stark, I'm going to use some vintage photo on the edge of the card. Now that with this, I take a little bit off. And as you can see, I come in to the card and I'm using a swirling motion. I'm going right across the card. There we go. Then we turn it, load up again, and again in a and a swirling, like almost like a polishing motion, and just, it's really important that you don't go straight from there to there, because what happens is that's when you get the blobs and you get a non-blended line where you've brought too much colour in. So always take it off, come onto the card, and you can see it doesn't take much, but it does really finish the card off lovely. Last one. And usually by this time you've probably got enough ink on there to continue, because the ink just sort of builds itself up on the pad. And you don't want to go in too heavy right at the end, because you'll have too much. I think I just a little bit on that corner. And there we go. And it just sort of gives it a frame. Get into the middle of the page again. Gives it a frame, and then it just makes it stand out. So we've got our layers. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Herma glue to quickly stick my layers together. Okay, so I'll use my Herma just to put some glue on the back and just layer them up. A little tip when you're mounting is if you leave a little bit more at the bottom. It's an old printer's trick. For the eye, it looks better when there's a slightly bigger border at the bottom. And if you ever look at any kind of printmaker's work, screen printing, woodcuts, they always leave that slightly bigger at the bottom. And mounting that up onto my card, and then we're ready to assemble our leaves. It's just a case of, now I know I want to do light next to dark, because then that will help. It will help make them show up really well. Got a lot of those leaves, but never mind, I'll live with that. So I'm thinking something like that, and then we'll have our little collection of acorns at the bottom. So I've got a rough idea about what I'm doing, so I'll pull those ones down and just start from the top. For this sticking down, I would usually use Herma, but for this I'm using glossy accents, because I'm only going to put a little dab on the card and then just pop it into place, because it's not going to be stuck down flat. You can pinch the leaves, make them more 3D, and then in that case a little blob of glossy accents is enough. Oops, a little blob I said. Okay, so we'll start and we'll just layer up. Like I said, I had a rough idea about where I went. It's always probably best to have more leaves than you need, because then if there is a gap you can always fill it. And that's the thing about autumn leaves, they always look a bit crumpled, so you can pinch them and make them look a bit messy. I think that would look nice there. A little scrabble of glossy accents on the back. And because glossy accents is quite strong, if I I'm quick, I can move it, but once it's dried, if I want to pinch any bit or pick it up more, I know the Glossy Accents is going to hold it in place. Pop that in there. Up there. Now, do I want, oh no, I want that, yeah, that one there. Oh, thank you. It might be different to the card I was thinking of, but as long as it works, I don't think it matters. Oh yes, that works lovely. So my little acorn selection, I'm going to pop down here. And don't really want to end on a dark one. I think it's too dark, so that one's a nice one for the shadow. Ooh! Decided to argue with me. It's a bit tricky to start, but once you've got them in place, they are immovable. Just getting them in the first place. And then that one in front of it. Decided whether I want it upside down, tucked in, or can tuck it sort of under, like, oh, that'll do. There, perfect. So there we go. And like I said, once it's dried, it's not quite dried yet, you can pinch those layers up and really make them look 3D. I'm taking a risk doing it at the moment because it's not really there yet. But this would probably benefit from being put in a box rather than a straightforward card. But it does give it more of a lift. And of course it's blank to put any words on there you want, or you could use the words that were there in the dies. Oops, get that out. So, just to say, I wouldn't go any darker than that because obviously you want it to stand out. I could use it in the light, but I think that's too bright. So yeah, I think that one is perfect. So there you go, there's the card made with the embossing folder and the dies from the Die Cutting Essentials magazine. Just to recap, that's the one that was already done. I think I've done a better job this time round. I think that's been flattened because it's been in a box. And just to show you how different the other ones are, that one is more of a springtime card and that one's quite a men's card, and some of the little leaves match the embossing, so you can put them on top. So what I've done with that is just that silver highlight on there, just as a little extra touch to the card. So thank you very much for watching. See you next time.